Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are still your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are now less than a week away from potentially being crowned champions of Europe. Yes, I can say that. Hello, all of you, our fellow finalists of European football coming our way. As we know, look, it's been a interesting last 24, 48 hours for our listeners on audio that are coming to terms with the news of the latest injury in this season. Once again, the same player being re-injured as what we've seen during the season in Dejan Kulusevski, who has now undergone surgery on a knee injury suffered on Sunday's defeat against Crystal Palace, where Ange Postecoglou did tell us beforehand, just a knock should be okay. How many times have we heard Ange Postecoglou say this season, it should be a knock, they'll just be okay? And then 2-3 days later, we get the dreaded news that we feared at the time of a player dropping down. Look, I'm delighted to be joined by three of our returning regular faces on Last Word on Spurs. Back in the house, doing a bit of his own, I'd say, interesting event coming up towards the weekend. We've got George Achillea back on. George, how are you? Fill the listeners and the viewers in. What's got planned in your life, apart from, of course, travelling to Bilbao? Busy time in your life, G, at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, well, bit stressed thinking about next week. It's all I can think about. Work's been a struggle to focus on. But yeah, looking forward to get out there on Tuesday. But on just on non-Spurs related news, I guess I'm running the Spartan race, or I'm one of three this year on Saturday. I'm raising money for Alzheimer Research UK. So, I mean, I've already smashed the target of £350, but yeah, you've got the link there. If anyone is willing and able to donate, that would be incredible. Unfortunately, my girlfriend's dad's going through it and has been over the last few years. So probably the best charity for me to choose. And yeah, it starts off with a 5K with 20 obstacles. Later in the year, it goes to 10K and then 20K, and it gets more and more painful. So it's not just Spurs putting me through agony, put it that way.
Sending you love, bro. George, thank you so much, mate. Thank you for being back on as we unpick the latest Tottenham news that we try and decipher and do so. Back on the show also, Ash Mcatee over at the Spurs Kings. Ash going to try and bring us some positive vibes. Ash, over it's funny, you came on and you went to me, God, not another crisis. When's it not been a crisis, Ash?
Listen, we don't stop, man. And big up to all my kings and queens in the building. Big up to the panel. Big up to the chat as always, man. Look, it's character building right now as a Spurs fan. As I said, maybe we did something in our past lives. I don't know. Maybe the board members did a bit of juju and now we're paying the price for it. Who knows? But listen, we move, man. Don't worry, man. We're still here, man.
Thank you so much. And also back on the show, at a time when normally Spurs are in a crisis, you have to hop over to this man's Twitter account when normally he's got some kind of analogy, some kind of opinion that normally tries to pick you up at a time when you're down. I'm not sure even Billie T could write Spurs this season, this one. Bill, could you? I mean, it's just been quite simply unbelievable.
Yeah, man. I actually just come back from hospital. Actually, I had my leg amputated this morning, but it's nothing serious. Don't worry. It's just a knock. Don't worry about it.
And should you be back for next week, right? And should you be back for next week?
2 days max.
Honestly.
I said it as soon as I said if Ange comes out after this game in the Palace game and says it's nothing serious, we're never going to see Kulusevski again. I said that as a joke, but
I don't know if anyone agrees that for listeners on audio and for those that are watching around the world on this show, I don't know, you just feel like it is a Dr. Tottenham curse. You just see Kulusevski posing with a thumbs up in his hospital bed. I mean, Bill, do we need that kind of pose right now?
It's like, that League One, I mean, why is he laughing? What's he laughing at? Nah, yeah, he's probably off his mind on painkillers, I'm guessing, because there's nothing to smile about in my life right now, trust me.
I'll tell you. I mean, of a week where I think we all wanted to go into it with relative optimism. And look, I am trying to channel, everyone knows out there, I'm trying to channel the inner Lee McQueen of PMA, positive mental attitude. But I know this news will not have gone down well for a lot of Spurs fans, because despite Kulusevski, I think in the last month or so, not being at the levels that we saw in the earlier part of the season, I mean, there's no doubt about it that Kulusevski on his day has that ability to win Spurs a game. So yeah, it's a disastrous loss for Spurs, you have to say. And just to bring that news into focus for those that don't know what we're talking about, if you're unsure what we're talking about, Tottenham Hotspur have confirmed that Dejan Kulusevski has undergone surgery on a knee injury suffered in that defeat to Crystal Palace on Sunday. The news obviously comes at the worst possible time for Tottenham, given it means the attacking midfielder is now definitely going to miss Wednesday's Europa League final showdown against Manchester United. It is also worth obviously being very, very clear that as things stand, James Maddison has also been ruled out for the season. And whilst I think I do want to be honest and say I have heard some tentative reports that Lucas Bergvall has returned to some form of individual training, not group training, hence why you're not seeing pictured at the moment with regards to being at Hotspur way with the other players at the moment. I think it's important to stress that this is tentative reports that Lucas Bergvall has potentially resumed light training. And I think at best you might argue he could potentially feature against Manchester United next week. But Ange Postecoglou, I'm sure, will be keeping his cards very, very close to his chest. And I'd be astounded, really, if he does want to put out there that Bergvall is training, because I'm sure he would like to keep, really, his options maybe up his sleeve. Tottenham did announce with that news about Dejan Kulusevski that he has suffered an injury to his right patella. And following further special consultation, the midfielder has undergone surgery immediately and will commence his rehabilitation with our medical staff. We are all with you, Decky. Decky has also, since that confirmation from the football club, taken to Instagram, where he's put out on there for him that he is determined to get back as soon as he can. He said, for the people that I gave joy this year, thank you. I appreciate you and I love you. Don't be sad. We will be back. We're coming for everybody. Vicario says, this family is going to miss you. We'll fight for you. See you soon on the pitch, philosopher. So what it does mean for Tottenham is they've got a decision to make when it comes to midfield and attack for next week. I should also point out there, for those that are really down in the dumps, and for those maybe younger viewers and listeners out there, older listeners and viewers will remember this, that in 1984, we had no Glenn Hoddle, we had no Stevie Perryman, we had no, I think Ozzy Ardiles as a late sub. Tottenham did go on to win a European trophy. So whilst many will look at this news as being absolutely catastrophic to our chances of beating Manchester United, when you weigh that up, when you weigh the fact that Dejan Kulusevski hasn't been at his greatest this season, how much is it a blow, Bill, for you, Kulusevski not being available for the rest of the season now?
It's a hammer blow, to be honest. I think in the context of losing Bergvall and Maddison, it's an absolute killer blow. I think, I don't think he's been in the best form lately. I think everyone will agree with that. And I think it's an interesting debate, which I've seen a couple of people talk about, whether he should have played against Palace. I personally think he should have done. And I think I was on here saying that he should do before the game, because he badly needs to play himself some minutes into form. And, he's been off form since his return from injury. But there's no doubt, and it's particularly worrying when you consider his form against the Manchester teams this season and last season. He's got a great record against Man United, great record against Man City. He knows how to turn up against these teams. So it's a big loss. And I think particularly when you're in the context of Bergvall, Maddison, Kulusevski, I think you can make a pretty good argument. There's been our three best players this season. Yeah, it's just whichever way you look at it, it's a blow, man. It's a big blow.
Quite interestingly, G, if we come over to you, when you actually look at the fact that our starting midfield three in wins against Manchester United this season for Spurs, which is an interesting one. In February, where we beat them 1-0, it was Maddison, Bentancur, Bergvall. In December, we beat them 4-3. It was Basuma, Maddison, Sarr. And in September, when we beat them 3-0, it was Maddison, Bentancur, Kulusevski. It does feel that Ange is going to have to tinker with the formation. What would be your starting three in Bilbao a week from now?
Oh, it's a tough one. The problem is that main catalyst for me there was Maddison. Maddison, especially in Europa League, has been the boy for us and probably not got as many flowers as he deserved, mainly because he probably went through that patch of Ange not playing him when we thought he should. But yeah, he's been phenomenal for us this year. So he's the one I'm sort of thinking is the missing link in that midfield mainly. And like, I get the Kulusevski news is obviously sad. Like, you're going to want him in his options, but let's be real. He's been poor the last, pretty much since he's come back from injury. And this is the guy that was arguably our player of the season up until that injury. So it's still a big blow. But yeah, when it comes to the people that are left, Oh my word! Right, so Bentancur and Basuma, I think, are absolutely locked. It looks like they have been the last couple games anyway. And to be fair to them, since Frankfurt, I think they've been phenomenal when it comes to the Europa League game. So they want 100% start next week for me. It's that final spot where do you risk playing someone like Odebear in the 10, which is what some people have suggested, or maybe you play Richarlison and Solanke, and Solanke's maybe doing more of that sort of support role, that classic Kane role that we've come to know the last few years before he left. That's obviously one option. The other option, which is the more boring and maybe you could argue safe option, is playing Sarr as well. I personally don't like that because you're effectively playing 3 quote unquote 8s in midfield. And as much as Sarr has an engine, I think this season he's been a little bit disappointing for me, and I just don't think he would work with those other 2 as well. I think you are going to need someone that has a bit more flair, a bit more, I don't know, just the ability to get past, either past a midfielder or defender, or able to create something. And I just don't really know if any of those 3 do that individually or have that trait. Odebear does, in the sense of being able to take on a player, but has he got the strength to do it is another thing. Not too sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably lean towards playing maybe Richarlison and Solanke, and sort of having, it looks like Son and Johnson are probably going to start on the wings. So I'd probably maybe opt for those until Richie's legs are gone, and then bring someone else in. So yeah, I'd probably lean towards that, I'd say.
Yeah, I
Bit of
mean,
experience as well compared to some of the others.
you know what? I mean, coming over to you, Ash, it's a bit of a predicament that we are in, because when you think about it again, you know, I've mentioned that already, that Bergvall, I've personally been told he's returned to some form of light training. Whether that actually means he's actually going to be in the frame is another question entirely. But I think when you do consider that, you had a Sarr, Basuma and Bentancur, that midfield 3, I know many feel that's actually far from ideal. And those 3, actually, they started in the 4-0 defeat to Liverpool, no shot on target. They also played in a 2-2 draw versus Bournemouth, which was dreadful, before Maddison and Bergvall came on. Now, Postecoglou does, of course, have that rearranged Villa game to work out on a plan B. And I think we did see partly Odebear start as a number 10. Well, I say start. He ended up featuring as a number 10, of course, in that second half against Palace. I mean, I know it's a bit of time for Ashmatic analysis. I mean, Ash, what do you think he's going to do? Can you envisage in your mind what he's going to do to change this?
To be fair, Odegaard has played for Burnley in the 10. Not just one game, quite a few games. So we did look into that when we were scouting him. When we did miss out on Desiree Doué, we're looking for a similar profile that can play wide and also play in a 10. So he does have the profile that can do it, and he has done it before. However, I wouldn't risk it right now. Maybe bringing him on to kind of play that role. If things aren't working out, I think that would be more suitable. As we saw in our last game, he came on in the 10 and he had a little bit of a bright spark. There was a bit of movement. Problem is, it's the end product and the ability to find players and create from that position. I'm in the kind of mindset, why force it? Why force this creative 10? Why force, or the creative 8, whatever you want to call it, if you don't have the players there to do it? I think people may be saying Solanke because he does naturally drop into that position when he picks up that ball. He is a focal point, but I'd have to agree with George in terms of why not go with a 2 up front then? Why not have Solanke slightly deeper with Richie playing up front, almost like old school, big man, little man, but not quite little man because they're both big. So a supporting striker or a shadow striker with a forward slightly in front. And I think Richarlison suits that profile where he just attacks that, box. They both got aerial ability. You got Porro. He's really attacking as a fullback. Used to be a wing back at Sporting Lisbon. Was brought in for that role for Conte. Why not utilize him and play him out wide? Make him press aggressively. Make him go forward with the ball aggressively, attack aggressively, not press aggressively. And then also you got your doggy as well, who's a natural left wing back. Make him play a lot more aggressive. And make their wing backs get pushed back by our fullbacks. I said earlier on our earlier stream that maybe we go to a 4-2-4 if you want to be tactical. So you've got a back 4, you've got the double pivot, with Basuma and Bentancur doing what they naturally do, and then you have 4 players occupying the attack. But that happens when we quickly transition. If you look at the last game, I quickly watched the Man United game where we won 1-0 at home, and typically Man United have been poor at home, so expect them to be a little bit better away from home. They had the lion's share of possession, and in Europe we have given up a lot of that possession. We haven't controlled the midfield, so why force trying to control midfield and throw an extra player that's going to go hiding or go missing effectively? And that goes against tactics that may suit us if some of these players know how to play on the transition, or they're better suited with spacing behind. Why not start a little bit slower, invite the press, and then limit them to half chances or crossing into the box? Because I know they've got a problem when you allow them to play out from the back. They've lost the ball. I think they were the worst team in the league for build-ups. From when I've checked Mark's stats, he's really good for all those kind of nerds and geeks that like, stats and diagrams. They've had a lot of turnovers on that left-hand side where Dogu lives. And then Ugarte in the midfield, can he progress the ball really well? Do you know what I mean? So it's players like that. We can allow their centre-backs to have the ball. When it gets into midfield, then maybe we press them. We do like a mid-block press, and then we try to win the battles there. I think physicality is our best route. And I think when it comes to height and power and speed, they don't have the legs that we do. So I would literally do counter-attacking. That's the easiest way to explain it. But I'm not a coach. I'm just a fan.
I mean, Ash, it's interesting some of the options you give us there. I think, Bill, I'm seeing a lot of live comments for listeners and audio that are coming into the show at the moment. There's suggestions for, as Ash has said, that dynamic of, maybe switching to that kind of formation. I'm seeing a lot of shouts for Son in the 10 role, Solanke up top. I know there's a lot that are really, really concerned with relation to how this is going to affect the lack of creativity now by not having a Maddison or not having a Kulusevski. Is that one of your biggest concerns, Bill, about that lack of creativity? Or do you feel maybe someone like Porro, if we do free him up from those defensive duties, he actually just gives us quite a lot from an attacking perspective? Can you see that being more of an option Ange will use right now?
Yeah, it's literally, I was just, so you said the name Porro, I was literally just about to say the exact same. I think we're going to see Porro have a lot more responsibility on the ball. I think a lot of our attacking play will come through that channel. Porro will maybe play in between sort of the right wing and in the 10. He likes to get into those zones, cross the ball in quite a bit. I think he's going to have the lion's share of our attacking play. I think that's going to be our tactics. Ange has been pretty dogmatic in his approach to formation. In his time here, he's maybe played a back 5 once and twice. He's drifted from his kind of tactical shape barely ever. I can't see him doing it in the biggest game of his Tottenham career. I can't see him making a monumental shift, and it'd be great. I personally think we're quite, as Ash was saying, we're quite well suited to a back 5 maybe, or making a tactical tweak like that. I just can't see Ange doing it. I think if I had to put with gun to my head, I think he'll play Sarr, Bissouma, and Bentancur, and I don't think he'll break from the mould that much, just because we've seen throughout his 2 years at Tottenham, he very rarely puts a team out that you think, oh my god, I did not see that coming. You can usually predict it pretty well. But what I do think is there'll be a slight tactical tweak, and that Porro will be our main creative outlet. Which might mean, Richarlison, Solanke on left and striker like we saw in the last 2 European games, because they're both really good aerial threats. So I think that could work for us as well. But it's a big worry not having Maddison, Kulusevski and Bergvall, because, that bit of magic that you need sometimes to win a game like this, we don't have many players that can do it now.
I just wonder on that point. I mean, Ange said back on April the 10th, which was a long time ago now, I'm resigned to the fact that the football gods have got their eyes elsewhere this year. They're obviously busy with other clubs and other managers. So whatever we've got, we're going to have to do it without them. How much, does this, in your mind, change how this game does go by not having Kulusevski there? Because I just wonder, Kulusevski, as we mentioned off air, he has got the ability on his day to win a game of football. He's been that good for Tottenham in the earlier part of the season. But also, you said this to me actually earlier today, also being real, he's not been of that level for quite a number of weeks. So, I mean, how much of a blow is that in terms of now, in your mind, seeing the results sway in Tottenham's favour?
I mean, it's always going to be a blow because you're still losing quality player, and then you're losing an option. That's the reality of it. But
Yeah.
I do think, oh god, it sounds harsh. But if you're thinking players in the first team of recent weeks that if you had to lose one of them, at the moment Kulusevski has been the poorest out of them, and I think the Bodo Glimt game away was probably one of the biggest examples for me, was where I think the team really like dug in and really performed well, and it was quite a mature performance. But I still found myself seeing whenever Decky had the ball at his feet, or I know he's not necessarily known for his speed, but everything that he did just felt slower. It felt like he wasn't being as physical as he once was as well. It almost as if he was trying to still nurse the coming back from the injury and things like that. So look, it's obviously a blow because you're just losing a player that has been so important at the start of the season. However, I think he was still trying to get to fitness. He had, like Billy said earlier, he had to play some of these minutes, whether it was against Palace or Villa on Friday, if he didn't get injured against Palace, because he has to get back up to speed, or had to get back up to speed, should I say. And it's just unfortunate that he's just, aggravated, got another injury, and is now not going to be available. So it's obviously a shame, but yeah, like I said, I think it isn't the end of the world, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this is we've had to cope with magnitude of injuries. I have to ask you, Ash. At the moment, look, the official line is that Bergvall, as I said, is out. But again, there's tentative reports, as I mentioned, that he's back in light training away from the group, which is hence why maybe we are not seeing him at the moment involved in any kind of group training. Is he that important, Ash, to Tottenham, Bergvall, when he was playing, that if there's any chance of him being fit, would you risk him for this game?
I think everyone or most fans remember 6 years ago with the whole Harry Kane situation. I'm not comparing him to Kane, but in terms of him coming back from an injury and not being match sharp, match fit, as enthusiastic as the kid is, he's probably going to say, I'm fit, I'm ready to play gaffer. If the guy is, doing individual work and he's not with the group at the moment, I wouldn't think he could start. I think he'd have to stay on the bench. And the best we could probably see from him is coming off the bench if things were tight, and maybe he can make an impact that way, in my opinion. He is an important player in terms of like his technical proficiency on the ball, his vision as well. At times, he's able to open up the pitch. He's able to, carry the ball as well. And he doesn't lose it. That's the most important thing. And he's physical. And he puts his body about. So with that in mind, having, reportedly injections or whatever he needs to take to get him back to, the level he needs to be, it's going to be a tall order, a tall ask to depend on a 19-year-old, Like, I know we said we're doing Project Youth in the summer.
Take it to extreme.
But yeah, this is wild. Like, we can't lean on someone that's just coming to the club that's 19 years old to be that guy where we look to him to be our leader. Do you know what I mean? So yes, he's important. Yes, he is important. Yeah, but at the same time, I think he's someone that we could bring on to make a difference. It'll be a luxury. In fact, it'll be a plus, in my opinion, if we had that weapon to bring on. Because look at Manchester United's bench. I don't know if they've got as much to change the game as well. So that's where I stand with Bergvall.
Yeah, I mean,
go on. No, I was going to say quickly. I just think there's other ways we can play through the press or be creative. I still think the best route is to be direct and be in the transition counter attack, and you could do that with a back four. Do you know what I mean? You won't have to change too much. I just think Romero, when he does put his foot on the ball, whether you like him or not, in possession, I think he can pass between the lines. He's quite good at doing that. Mickey van der Ven, I know he hasn't looked as sharp since he's been back, but we all saw what he did against Manchester United at Old Trafford when he ripped them a new one and he carried the ball and he fired that ball across into Johnson. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but he has got the ability to do it on his day in a cup final when emotions are running high. So we've got that creativity outlet. And as I said before, the fullbacks, play them like wing backs because they're better with space. I'm not saying they're going to beat their man 1v1, but if they create separation and they can get either a cross into a Richarlison or a Solanke, you'll be able to use that creative outlet. And then the doggy with the cutbacks, he's good at driving with the ball. I think that's creative in a different way. And if there's spacing behind and United are really going for it, we do have good 1v1 finishes in Son. And whether people like it or not, Johnson's geography of the area of the pitch and his time in knowing where to be and when to peel off and when to get to the 6-yard box or the penalty spot, he knows where to be to finish off, and he can hit it first time as well. He doesn't need any time to set himself. So he has got the intelligence when he's in that area, despite whether he lacks that 1v1 ability that we all want in a winger. So it's just about playing some of these players in their right positions and playing to our strengths. And I think that doesn't mean we have to hold on to the ball and dominate that way. We can hit them where it hurts, in my opinion.
What comes to mind when you mentioned Porro there is the at the Palace. I feel like the only good highlight was that cross, that whip that he did into the back post where Sarr somehow magically headed it wide. I think if you just keep letting him do that, like create from deep and crossing it in there with your Solankis or Richarlisons in the box, like you say, you can create so many chances in the game like that, especially when realistically a lot of the times it is just 3 at the back for United.
And also, just to piggyback off that, sorry George, sorry to interrupt you, but with Dorgu, I expect Dorgu to press high up, and that's because that's a part of their press. They want their wing backs to get high up the pitch and try to affect us, which leaves a little space in behind. And if we can get behind them, I know he's their left-sided left back. I'm not sure if he's fit. I know he's doing like one.
Him and Yoro are both.
Him and Yoro are both like touch and go.
Training. Yeah.
What I was trying to allude at is that it could be Lindelof playing that position, or Maguire. I'm not too sure. I think it'll be Lindelof that might be the left-sided centre back. And he could be a weakness, in my opinion. So we could have some, 1v1s or 2v1s in that area if we time our runs and we, let them come on to us. It's basically, essentially, what Palace did to us. When our fullback Spence pushed too high, and then they exploited it because Bentancur wasn't able to help out Ben Davies on that side, for example. I'm just envision a mirror for them. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not quite good at defending the transition, or they're not good in build up at times.
I mean, look at how West Ham scored their goals. Bowen tapping from the far post. And Ash Johnson's, as much as I've had issues with him all season, that's his bread and butter. Just get him in those positions and get the ball across them.
It's back post Brennan, isn't it? I mean, just Bill, on this point, I just wonder, does the injury news in your mind affect the game template? And what I mean by that is, how do you feel the best way is that's how we're going to win this game? Will it be more of a pragmatic approach, similar to what you've seen against the likes of Bordeaux and Frankfurt, or will it be more of a attacking style of play under Ange that has seen us beat United on the 3 occasions that we have this season?
I would probably personally go for the pragmatic approach just because of the personnel that we've got available. I think, we've lost a lot in attack with losing those 3 players, and particularly Maddison, I think. He personally is my player of the season. I think in all of our good attacking performances this season, Maddison's been there. I think he's a massive loss to our attacking play. So I would keep it tight like we did against Frankfurt and Bordeaux away, and then try and nick a goal in transition or something like that, because I don't think United are that much to be worried about, but at the same time, they still have players that can hurt you. I think Bruno Fernandes is probably the best player out of both 2 teams at the moment. He's probably their only danger man. And I feel like if we are, too complacent, because we haven't really been fluid in attack for quite a while. We had that spell in the Frankfurt game at home. We made a couple of spells against Bordeaux where we looked pretty good. But in terms of our, this in 2025, we haven't really looked fluid in attack. So I think we're actually better suited, especially when we've got our back 4 playing. Keep it tight. Hope we can nick a goal or 2. And frustrate Man United, because I don't think they're a side that if we let them have a lot of the ball, they're not free scoring at the moment under Amorim at all. They've got their own problems in attack. So I just like to see a bit of sensible gameplay like we saw against Frankfurt and like we saw against Bordeaux. That kind of mentality where trying to frustrate them a little bit, I think.
Never thought I'd hear the words from you, Bill, of sensible and Tottenham in the same sentence. What's happening to you? Look, On that basis, we're definitely going for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. We've got nearly over 5,000 that are watching the show live. Thanks so much, as always, for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by the brilliant George Achillea. George, as I say, running a very special event this weekend. Those details, of course, are on our pin link on the show. They're also on the pin chat here. Please donate if you can. We're joined by the wonderful Ash Mcatee at the Spurs Kings. Ash's favourite topic is always analysis. And Ash is bringing that into the show now. So if you want more of that, go and follow Spurs Kings TV. I've also got the brilliant Billie T, of course, part of change for Spurs. Big week for us all here. You know, massive week for Tottenham coming up, isn't it, Bill? Massive week.
Yeah, and can I just say on the Twitter front, actually, and strike me down if this guy proves to be a liar, but there's some guy has just tweeted me actually and said he was at the training ground today and he posted a picture as well, and he's claiming that he definitely saw Bergvall training and Bergvall signed a shirt and winked if he was playing. So fingers crossed. I think what Ash said is exactly right. I don't think it would be good enough to start, but on the bench it would be a huge difference if he's there, man. So fingers crossed. That'll be a huge difference if he's on the bench. So sorry if this random guy called Steve on Twitter is lying, but I trust him with my life at the moment because I'm desperate.
No, that's fine. I mean, I always with this situation, I have to say, Anthony Costa, a really good friend of mine, will always message me and say, Rick, didn't I tell you years ago that we were cursed? Yes, you did, Ant. Yes, you did, Ant. Even though that we've tried to deny the fact there's some juju around the club, like Ash just mentioned. But look, we're going to move on. We've got quite a bit to sort of cover during this show. Reports are suggesting also that Tottenham, Daniel Levy, chairman, is particularly interested in signing Mcatee TEL on a permanent basis across this summer. That's according to Sport Bild, who report that Bayern Munich are willing to renegotiate with Tottenham on the €60 million deal they agreed in the January transfer window for TEL. Currently on loan, we know there's a 60 million option on there for Tottenham to make it permanent. Tottenham have already paid a 10 million loan fee to the German champions for the Frenchman. An indication has been that Spurs have no intention of paying that current fee, which was discussed in the summer. With TEL having a mixed time at the club so far, with just 3 goals and 1 assist in 18 games. Sport Bill do report that Daniel Levy is particularly very much interested, though, in signing him on a long-term basis. But that would mean there would have to be a renegotiation on the fee. Guys, a lot to cover on this show. So just a very quick kind of yes or no for what we've seen about TEL so far. Would he be worth renegotiating this fee for the summer? Very quickly, G, TEL, in or out so far? What have you seen based on this season so far since January?
Renegotiated price, yes, not the current price, because I think TEL was, when we were trying to sign him earlier, like he was someone that I've been looking at for a long time, and I think he's one of the most exciting talents in the world. People forget he's only 19 years old, and he's walked into an absolute shit show at Spurs. So I mean,
who doesn't?
Oh, I know, but look, he's obviously not necessarily hit the ground running in terms of all of his performances. I do think there were a few standouts, like Frankfurt away and a couple of others like lately. But for me, he's one that I've always seen as like, he's a player that I see if we don't sign, we'll regret it, because he'll go somewhere else and he will shine in 4 to 5 years' time. So if we can negotiate the fee down for now, then I'll 100% make a move for him.
Fine. Ash, come around to you on this very quickly. Tell me more. What have you made of his time so far? Can you see Spurs moving for him in the summer? And if so, does that mean they'll renegotiate the fee, which appears to be what this report was insinuating?
Yeah, this is Spurs signing. This is going to happen, no doubt. This is all tied up with the Kane situation, in my opinion. I think would I want him, if you're asking me personally, I would say lose Europa. Yeah. Get Champions League. No. That's my answer. That's my honest answer. Okay.
Bill, what's your feeling on this one for you about TEL? What do you feel is going to pan out with him come the summer?
Yeah, I'm all in for it, man. I like him. I particularly like his mentality and the way that he not scared to front the fans and things like that. And he's trying to build a connection with the club. I think on the pitch he's maybe been a bit lacking, but as George said, you know, we're a dysfunctional team at the moment. It'd be very hard to look like a £55 million player in our team at the moment. Oh yeah, there you go. Just thank you, Paddy, for on that. But yeah, man, I'm all in on it. And I think what you got to remember as well is a lot, as Ash was saying, it's a lot of dodgy financial stuff with the Kane money, isn't it? We'll probably do it technically be outlaying any money. So yeah, I'm all in for it. I just think though we're going to have a lot of wingers on the books in summer, and if we don't win Europa, playing 1 game a week, we've got about 7 or 8 wingers that are stacked in that department. We're going to have to sell. a number of players in summer. If we need that European football to make it worthwhile, because we have, we've got like 3 or 4 wingers on every flank.
Yeah, well, as we're on that topic very quickly, let's just cover these off. We are there has been reports over the past week or so that Tottenham could potentially lose one of the best young talents in their squad this summer, with Mikey Moore now reportedly attracting attention from other Premier League clubs as well as from Germany. A name that I know Bill does not have too much kind affection for, Bill won't mind me saying, is Florian Plettenberg, who is now laughing in the background. I can tell you, Bill is, who was taken to social media to reveal that Bayern Munich have added the Tottenham youngster to their summer shopping wish list. He claims that the Bundesliga side are monitoring Moore's situation and have already reached out to the players' representatives. However, the journalist makes it clear that Dortmund are yet to make a concrete move for the 17-year-old, and added that Spurs, his youngster, is more likely to join another Premier League club in this summer. I would imagine that will be on loan, obviously, rather than a permanent move, because I know there's higher hopes for Mikey Moore. Just on that point of Mikey, I know there's been some suggestions that some have been disappointed by maybe not seeing him have more game time in the recent couple of months. I know, speaking to a close friend of mine, John, who runs Lily White Rose, I think John suggested that the player's been quite happy with the game time he's had this season so far. There's no real murmurs from him or his camp that they're unhappy by his game time. I mean, we'll just go around this very, very quickly. G, for Mikey Moore, is it just a case of maybe next season, hopefully he'll play a bit more game time in the first team, or do you think maybe a loan move might benefit him for next season?
Look, I think we just get really excited as a fan base, and I think since Kane's left, we're like craving for that next academy product to be this superstar straight away. And look, Mikey Moore has shown some amazing promise, but the kid's only 17 years old. Football is not linear. Just because Lamine Yamal is almost a Ballon d'Or winner at that age doesn't mean that every 17-year-old that looks good is going to be that way. So I think, for me, I don't want to see him go anywhere unless it's on loan to a Prem team next year. I would also like to see him get more minutes in the first team. That would be like my preference. But yeah, you've got to be careful, man. We can't run these players into the ground, especially in such a physical league that the Premier League is. It's very, very different to La Liga. So yeah, we just got to give him time, man. I've no doubt he's going to become amazing in the future. But yeah, we need to just relax and just not be demanding that our whole life depends on a 17-year-old.
Yeah. Are you of the same ilk on that, Ash, for you, or do you disagree with what George just said there?
I don't mind him going to the Bundesliga if it's out on loan, because I've seen players like Callum Hudson-Odoi go from Chelsea to Bayer Leverkusen and improve, and then I've seen this guy from City called Gittins go to Dortmund, and he's raised his profile out in Germany, and now he's being linked to a host of clubs in the Premier League, Chelsea being one of them. I wouldn't mind a Gittins type, but if they're developing players, English players like that, I'm not mad at it, is what I'm saying. And I agree with George in terms of the kid's young. He played in our last game against Palace, and I remember when he played against Palace away as well, and I had the same kind of like concerns in terms of like physicality, because he's still growing. His bones are literally still having growing pains. You know what I mean? We forget how young that age is because we just look at, as George was saying, football in black and white, binary, linear, and it's not like that. So he's going to need his trials and tribulations. He's going to need his knockbacks. He's going to need his developments. He's going to need times where a fan base are maybe not so emotionally connected with him and say, "Oh, why are you not playing them?" And messaging him on his social medias and like that type of thing. He doesn't need that kind of star quality. He needs some of that kind of rough treatment, like some anybody treatment, and then he needs to make his way up and earn his way to the top like any other player. Do you know what I mean? And then come back to Spurs, and then we can say, look at this player that's matured. He's ready now. Look at the player that we've inherited. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, as George said, I'll just echo his thoughts and just say, look, yeah, we do this at Spurs because we are clinging on to any player since Kane. We want that kind of hope. We did it with the likes of Winks. We did it with Skip. Skip was a top player, and now we're doing it with I'd say Donnelly is going to be like probably the next one that we're going to hype up. So just give these players time. I'm sure they will get there because we do have.
Everyone thought Lancashire was going to be the next Kane. He went on loan in January. So
yeah, this is it. Scarlett's still getting talked up. So these things take time. People is what I'm saying. Scarlett's good 21 years old now, and he's been on loan quite a few times. And I'm not saying that he's going to need that many loans to get it right, But
Yep.
I'm just saying it's very early in his tenure, like, you know, so give him time. Don't put so much pressure on him. And if he makes it, like, we're here for him, you know?
Yeah. Is that how you feel, Bill, as well? I mean, I think Ash makes already a compelling case there if they are to loan him out. You know, someone like Borussia Dortmund, we've seen a lot of young players go there and actually really shape their career from there and either stay there or progress and move on and have really good careers. What's your take on that for you, Bill, in terms of Moore's next steps?
Yeah, man, I'd be very happy for him to go on loan, as long as it is absolutely made explicitly clear that it's just a loan. We cannot afford to lose this guy. Like, he's, you know, one of the best talents in the country at his age group. And, you know, you can't buy that kind of talent and that sort of academy player coming through. We've seen it a couple of times. And I said we've had our disappointments as well, but I think he's got that superstar potential that makes him, you know, unsellable for me. So I don't mind him going on loan. You could maybe do that thing where you sign a new contract and then go on loan. I don't mind doing that, something like that. But
yeah,
I think he needs to be reassured that he has a long-term future at this club, because, you know, in like 4 years' time, which is an incredible amount of time in football, he'll be 21 years old. Like, that's nothing. Like, so much development to come, and I think we have to make it a priority to make sure that he commits his long-term future to Tottenham.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely spot on that. I totally agree. A couple of rumours that we've heard across this last week or so in the Spurs world when it comes to transfers, that we know the window's not open. That doesn't stop links and obviously rumours spilling amongst the community and what we're hearing. There are reports Tottenham have already made a inquiry for Lyon winger Ryan Cherki, who is reportedly able to leave the club this summer for a reported €22.5 million. The French under-21 international looks like to move on from Lyon after coming through their academy before becoming a regular in their first team. It is also worth pointing out there he's a target for a number of Premier League clubs. However, Tottenham and Liverpool are at the front of that queue we're hearing, while PSG have opted to steer clear ahead of the summer. So one to watch there. Tottenham also been handed a significant boost, we're hearing, on their bid to sign James Mcatee from Premier League rivals Man City, who are open to offers after the player has struggled to convince Pep Guardiola that he deserves to be at the forefront of his plans heading into next season. Now, the attacking midfielder, who has been compared to David Silva, is preparing to enter this final 12 months of his contract, which allows him to pocket just a mere $15,000 per week, resulting in Spurs and a number of Premier League clubs admiring the potential of bringing the player in. And we understand Spurs are one of those clubs keeping a keen eye on Mcatee's situation. He is an England under-21, and there are reports that he may be available in excess of a fee of $25 million during the upcoming summer transfer window. So, couple to keep an eye on there, Mcatee, Cherki, and we'll bring you more if we hear it. But we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. We have now got over 6,000 of you watching the show live. Thanks again for all your incredible support for the show. Please keep liking. Please keep subscribing so we share this out to a wide range Spurs audience. We're going to bring in Ange Postecoglou's comments. Now, quite interestingly, I don't think those are aware or were aware of the fact that I wasn't aware of this, that the Europa League press conference has to be held a week earlier prior to the game. So there was probably a lot of people confused like me thinking, why was Ange Postecoglou giving the Europa League preview of the Man United game on the Monday when we've just lost to Crystal Palace on the Sunday? But apparently this is the rules and regulations when it comes to the Europa League final, that the actual press conference has to be done a week in advance of the final. And Ange Postecoglou has said for him that he wants to destroy this narrative when it comes to the fact of Tottenham and their trophy drought that is hanging around the football club. Now, I think the one thing a lot of people, maybe while they haven't been a massive fan of Ange's tactics across this last 18 months or so, I think the one thing you can't deny is that the man does stand up for the football club whenever he's in front of the media. And he said he thinks it's a great opportunity because it destroys that narrative that exists around the club in terms of its stature. He said, it doesn't matter how nice your stadium is, how nice the training facilities are. It doesn't matter if you've been runners-up in the league previously. Until you win something, unfortunately, those questions are always going to be around the football club. And he spoke about the fact that he thinks he's earned his right to be in the Premier League. He thinks that all the success he's had is valid because it proves that it doesn't matter where you come from in the world, invariably, you are going to get questions. And he said, I don't think there'd be another manager who gets to a European final that's had their ability questioned more than he has. So there's some strong quotes there from Ange Postecoglou. Just on this point, guys, look, I think we know now, kind of 6-7 days away from the final. I think everybody understands there's a real conscious effort now to get behind the manager, get behind the group of players. And as we know, the kind of questions, the situations around what comes next, that will come during, obviously, the time after the Europa League and however that results and plans out. But do you think, what have you made of Ange recently, those comments? I mean, he's been quite protective of the football club, Bill. And again, I know you were a massive fan of Ange at one point in the season before we had the run that we had. You know, what do you make of those comments from Ange? Very protective of the football club and wants to end this trophy drought.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, man. You know, I think his best ability, and when you listen to the players, I think Kevin Danso came out this week and was talking about it. He's obviously an incredible orator. Like, he's one of the best on the mic in the game. And I think that has a real impact on keeping the players on side. I think Danso was talking about how before every game he's never felt so motivated. I wish some of the players would show that on the pitch a bit more this season. So they say they're motivated every game. Doesn't always look like that, but obviously, you know, he's an incredible talker. And I think, like, sometimes you think that people saying, you know, a manager should stick up for a football club, that's like the bare minimum. But we've seen over the last few years it isn't. Like, we have had plenty of managers that tried to drag us through the mud recently and think they're above us. So yeah, it's really welcome. And you know, that's why I have kind of lost faith with Ange times, particularly tactically, and the results have not been good enough. But I've always been a fan of him as a personality. I think he's just a great, passionate talker about football, and he kind of like talks about football like the way that, you know, fans talk about football. He seems to be very connected with, you know, the morals of fans and things like that. So yeah, I'll always respect him for that. And it's just good to have someone stick up for Tottenham, because he's right. Like, we get dragged through the mud in the media so much. I don't know if you're obviously seeing that the big story at the moment that there's no way that we could possibly deserve Champions League for winning the Europa League. Yeah. And Ange's right. It's just because of Tottenham. Like, you didn't get this a couple of years ago with Frankfurt were in it and finished 11th. Sevilla, similarly, you know, all these teams that have historically finished, you know, mid-table and not been in the Champions League. It's because it's Tottenham. We have this reputation in the media where people love to drag us down. So it's good to have a manager that drags us up.
Yeah. Quite interesting the way he talks. Maybe not in terms of the results when they drag us down, but sorry, boy, I had to say that. It just set me up there for like a kind of tap-in. Ash, on this point, look, everybody knows how they feel and they've got their feelings about the manager. I suppose the big question is, can he motivate the players for a big week? And we'll come on to Villa shortly, because I think, you know what, even the most ardent Spurs fan this season of how they feel about Ange Postecoglou, I think now we're coming to that point where, you know what, I think for one game, what is going to be that Europa League final, I'm sure everybody is going to get behind the players, get behind the manager. They'll put their feelings to one side for this game. I suppose the question is, Ash, can Ange pull off what will need to be not only a tactical display, but a motivational display in that changing room to really get the best version of these players in this game against Manchester United?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. You know, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. That's what it comes down to. You can say all the pretty words you want. You can give us all the PR. We've been all through it. Do you know what I mean? We've heard things. And like, look, we've all been gaslighted before. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Ange's doing that, but the league form does not lie. So I understand why a lot of people are coming with this type of energy. But you're right. Look, it's true. Who cares about the stadium? We've all said it. Let's not be hypocritical. Who cares about the training facilities? Like, this is what we've all said. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's calling us Spursy. They don't want us to win. They don't want us to get Champions League. Do you know what I mean? And I think what he's saying and what he's doing is creating this siege mentality, us against the world. That's what he's saying to the man. That's what he's saying to the boys in the dressing room. Do you get it? He's saying, look, if you don't win, it's not for me. Don't worry about me. They're going to call me an Aussie idiot. Do you know what I'm saying? I want you guys to be in the black and white photos. I want you guys to be in the wall. I want you guys to become legends. He's coming with that kind of, you know, like Denzel Washington said, I got to leave with something. You know what I'm saying? So he's coming with that type of energy where they've got to buy into it. So I think Billy hit the nail on the head where he said he is a great auditor. And some people call him like the greatest salesman ever, because he can sell ice to an igloo. Do you know what I'm saying? So I
Oh,
think
yes,
it is
come on.
that type of way, but we need that. We need that type of energy because
Yeah.
we have been hit with the Spursy label for long and hard now. And if we are to get players like Cherki, because I like a little Cherki, you know what I mean? I like a little Indian, you know, Native American. That's what I want. I know he's French, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, French under 21, he's a baller. Let's not get it twisted. If we don't get Eze, yeah, I'm telling you, Cherki, he's a mad one. Can play in the 10, can play on the right. He's just like if you like Kulusevski, listen, anyway, I'm talking too much. But to get those type of players, or if you do want an Eze, or if you do want even the player we're linked with, the 6, Johnny Cardoso. I know you like to say that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. That's why it's not going to happen. That's why I just won't happen, Ash, for that reason.
Yeah, if we don't get champs, then man ain't coming. That's what I got to say. So I'm just keeping it 100, lads. It's do or die. It's literally if we don't win this, we are, because we don't have that kind of pull like traditional top 6 clubs. We've got that label where they bottle it in finals. Do you know what I mean? And we don't want to be like them men down the road. So we need to create our lane, and we need to laugh at them in our open top parade bus on that Friday, having a Barbie. You know what I'm saying?
Turned into Andrew the Savlagio out on there as well. You know what? What's actually crazy is I think I looked up. I mean, we've had I think 44 shots since last scoring in a cup final, and I think you have to go back to what Woodgate's header against Chelsea in the obviously Carling Cup final at the time. It's Carabao Cup now. I mean, what's it been? I think this is the seventh final under ENIC. I think we've had 16 semi-finals under them. You said it actually, before we started the show, just how big one game is that is going to really massively, in one way or another, change the dynamic of the football club, right? I mean, it's that big, a 90 minutes or potentially 120 plus pens, I dare say, what it would do to the football club, right? It's such a massive, I mean, you can't put into context how big this game is, can you, in our recent history? Again, Champions League final, you have to go back, probably that's the last biggest game that we had, but feels like there's so much riding on this now, isn't it? The manager, the setup behind the scenes, the transfer window, what it looks like for next season. I mean, it feels like at the moment it's kind of on pause. I don't know if you agree, G, until the result of this game. Is that fair?
Mate, 100%. I think this is huge for we've touched on it a bit for multiple reasons, but we've already been told by Levy and Co that it affects our budget. If we're not in Europe next year, especially the Champions League, we're not going to be able to spend a lot of money this summer without having to make significant sales. You're never going to think about keeping the likes of Romero if you aren't in the Champions League, if you aren't winning honours, because let's face it, he is the serial winner in our team. And World Cups, Copa Americas, he's not going to settle for 17th and no trophy. So you can kiss a lot of the good players goodbye. They'll be fed up with the club, and you no doubt you'd end up changing manager and going like another approach. And then what manager do you get in? What manager can you attract? Especially since we're not known for exactly spending a lot of money. We tried it with Conte and Mourinho. Are the club going to be burnt from that like they were with the Ndombele signing, spending big on wages? We know we aren't a Man City that will overspend on wages to attract the talent even when we aren't doing well. That's just not us. We have to be in the Champions League to be able to attract the players because the club have chosen to, I guess, make us that way. So no, this is huge, and I think it's the same for both teams. Like Man United are in a very similar situation. Obviously, naturally they are a bigger club, but basically the same position in the league. Both have managers that are having asked big questions about them. Seen a lot of people in the chat earlier calling this El Sacco 2.0. So, and again, it kind of changes the trajectory of how their season will go next year as well, depending on whether in the Champions League. No, I think it's huge for us, and we basically have to win it. For that reason, we have to win it for the fans, so we can get rid of the label. We have to, and that's the one thing on Ange as well that I think. Yeah, okay, fine. He might not be the man tactically, whatever. He probably isn't. It's fine to move on. But if he's the guy that has able to turn the team into a winning team by winning this Europa League, and then we can kind of get that hoodoo off of our back, attract the better players next year, have a better manager in for the tactics for the league and Champions League, then in my opinion, it's been worth the stress. this year. I'll be able to say that I've seen Spurs win a European trophy when I've seen basically one League Cup in my lifetime. I'm jealous of my dad and my uncles who've seen some European trophies and stuff before. So, no, this to me, this is massive. And it's such a knock-on effect for next season and forward and that.
Totally agree. One thing I do want to quickly fit in before we look ahead to Villa for a quick 5 on it, Bill, coming over to you, is that Anne just said that he will not allow his heart rule his head when it comes to the selection of Sonny in the final. I mean, look, this situation may change now because of the fact that obviously we have lost Dejan Kulusevski, which may mean that, you know, if you prop up who's likely to start, maybe that makes Son's chances more than likely to stay. And I think Son gave him, I don't know if anyone's seen it, a really passionate, unmotivated to TNT where he said, look, we've been talking about this for years now. The biggest reason I stayed at Tottenham was because I wanted to do something that others couldn't achieve. That's probably why I am where I am now. You know, you need all the pieces to complete a puzzle. I think I've gathered all the pieces to make that puzzle complete. It feels like I've been missing that one important piece. I've been trying to find it for the past 10 years. And I really, really hope I can finally complete the puzzle this time. And we know, Bill, that it's only Son and Ben Davies that remain from the squad that did lose the Champions League final in 2019. They're also part of the group that was beaten by Man City in the Carabao Cup in 2021. Son said he feels it's different this time around. And he said there's no one more determined than him to finally end the 17-year wait for a trophy. I mean, how special, Bill, will that be if Son does get his hands on that trophy? Because it feels like he's been one of those players that throughout his time at Tottenham, you know, forget about his form currently, he's had the opportunity to move elsewhere and is stuck by the club where really others have decided to move on.
Yeah, listen, man, you've got like, you know, Hoddle, Perryman, Gascoigne, you know, all these Greaves, all the real top legends that have, you know, punctuated our history. If we win a trophy with Son, he'll be right up there. I'm sorry, but he will be. He'll be right up there in the breath with all the legends that have, you know, that I just mentioned there. Like, and I can't think of anyone that deserves a trophy more than this guy. This guy has stuck with us through thick and thin. He was a world-class player, you know, one of the best wingers the Premier League have ever seen. He will go down right in the Tottenham history books if he wins a trophy with us. All I really want is that picture of him lifting a trophy. You know, that picture of Ledley King doing it, a Carabao Cup, is imprinted in my mind forever. It's the only one I've seen in my lifetime. I remember properly. This one, Son with a European trophy, you know, that would be something that, you know, my dad was always telling me stories of Glenn Hoddle when I was a kid. I hope to be telling my grandkids stories of Son. You know, this will be everything, man. He really deserves it. I don't think he deserves to start. I don't think he'll be starting on Wednesday, but this guy, there is no one that loves Tottenham as much as him. And, you know, for a player that's come from Asia, a player that wasn't born and bred in Tottenham, you can't question his loyalty to this football club at all. Exactly. He's just shown unwavering loyalty. This guy signed a contract when we had Nuno as manager, you know. He is proper loyal, and no one deserves a trophy more than him, and I'll be absolutely delighted if he did it.
I wonder, boys, does that change your mind at all to G and Ash on that, you know, by the fact of Kulusevski's news? I mean, Ash, in your mind, would that change your opinion on whether Son should start, or do you still feel sentimental needs to be taken out of it, Sonny to start on the bench? Does it change your mind at all? Does it depend really on the minutes and the effect it does have in this Villa game coming up?
I know you guys are big fans of TEL, and maybe it's because, as you said, it was the attitude he has, it's the hard working. But from a pure footballing standpoint, I think when it comes to Son and it's 1v1 and he's in behind goal, I think he's still one of our best finishers in a Spurs shirt. I'm looking at TEL's actual ball striking in a Spurs shirt I'm talking about, and I'm not sure it's at the same level as Son on his day. If I've got Son versus in a 1v1 situation with a goalkeeper versus what TEL in a 1v1 situation, I'm going to back Son. And so maybe it comes down to things like that. You have to factor things like that maybe. I'm not putting anything against TEL. Like, I haven't got anything against TEL. I think his strengths might be a little bit more of that. In the final third, he might be able to go on the inside a bit better than Son when he's trying to beat a player. Son hasn't been on form, so I do understand taking him out of that firing line. But you have to consider the injuries that's happened today, and he's been our captain all season, and he's the one that wants to kind of lead the line. He's talking about, you know, that's the reason why I've been here for 10 years plus. So I'm not going to rule it out. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, G, where are you on Son at the moment with regards to the Kulusevski news? Does that change your mind on where he fits in the pecking order for you in terms of starting, or do you just need to see more minutes in the tank versus Villa to maybe convince you either way if he could start for next week?
I'm a little torn because if Man United do play this sort of counter-attacking transitional way, which they've sort of been playing, if there are a lot of moments where they are going to set up with the bank of five, I think Son's going to struggle to get past the defenders to be able to get the ball in, which has been his problem all year. And it's mainly when Son and Johnson are both starting at the same time that I've had issues, because neither of them this year have been very good at taking on defenders at all. I feel like you still need someone out wide, whether it is TEL on one side or Odegaard on the other, from what we have available, to be able to unlock defenses when the other team is sort of sitting back. I feel like neither Son or Johnson sort of offer that in the team. I do think Son brings a lot more experience, and I 100% agree with Ash in terms of his shooting. I think that's, for me, the main thing that's been disappointing with TEL in a Spurs shirt is the fact that he's had quite a few shots, and a lot of them have been kind of straight down the throat of the goalkeeper, whereas normally Sonny is phenomenal at finishing. But yeah, this year there's just something a bit off about him, and if he isn't actually fit for the game and he hasn't had the minutes in the tank against Villa, which, let's be honest, similar to the Kulusevski situation, he probably needs the minutes to sort of get up to speed a little bit, and then you're risking his injury. I just don't know if it's worth starting Son. I think maybe bringing on the Son to sort of shore up, bring a bit more experience towards the end of the match. Maybe if it is heading towards extra time and penalties, you'd rather have Son towards the end of a match for me than you would at the beginning, in the state that Son is in right now. So I think I wouldn't risk starting Son, in my opinion. Because to me, I think Johnson is pretty much locked in on that right wing spot, and I don't want to see Son and Johnson at the same time.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. I just thought, if we're gonna use the fullbacks a little bit more aggressively and make them be the 1v1 players, that's when I would have Son tuck in slightly, and that's what I mean by in that
fair.
channel.
I think TEL and Udogie against Frankfurt away I think they were really good. I think TEL drifted in that. TEL does very similar things to Son in that sense of, especially when he was at Bayern Munich, he isn't this touchline winger. He's not like he doesn't really work with the way Ange uses wingers. He very much starts wide and drifts in the centre. And actually, at Bayern, did what Sonny used to do. He would always shoot from that half space outside the box. Yeah. So they are quite similar in that aspect in how they want to play. And I think maybe if he just is the fitter player, then TEL is maybe the better option to start with. And then bring Sonny. That's kind of how I see it, especially if maybe Richarlison is also playing with Solanke, depending on how that whole midfield situation goes.
Yeah, that's another thing. It depends because if he does go for 4-3-3, even though I've said 4-2-4, 4-4-2, etc., if he does go for 4-3-3, the likelihood is that it might even be Richarlison on the left, which we have seen. Do you know what I mean?
He's worked the last 2 away games, so
I think he might. I think he is a lock, Richarlison, to be honest.
Oh,
so then that probably leaves Sarr in midfield if you're going to go Richie.
Yeah, that's the only thing, and that's what I think we slightly weaken if we do that. But I just, that's my opinion. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the coach.
There's so many different options. It's going to be interesting what Ange does do. Look, one thing we do know, and this is funny, I think this is probably the most irrelevant preview you're ever going to have on Last Word on Spurs when it comes to a next game, which is why we're going to give you a quick 5 minutes. I think we've ever done 5 minutes on a match preview of such irrelevance to Tottenham. For those that aren't aware, Tottenham actually do have a Premier League game on Friday against Aston Villa. Yeah, it might have escaped you for those out there that don't know. Tottenham actually are playing a game against Aston Villa. And obviously all eyes are going to be on Ange Postecoglou's selection for the game and what he is going to do. Look, we know United and Spurs have endured truly disastrous domestic campaigns, 17-16 respectively. The rearranged games have a lot of significance for both Villa and Chelsea. They're battling furiously for a top 5 finish and Champions League qualification next season. For Villa, they had a win, obviously, in their last game that guaranteed at least a spot in the Conference League next season, as they can no longer finish any lower than 7th, though they'll still be aiming for a second successive campaign at Europe's top table after making the Champions League quarterfinals, obviously, in the earlier part of the season. They have still got their eyes potentially on a further higher place than just the Conference League. So for Villa, this is a massive, massive game in their season where they want to solidify their battle for a Champions League spot. Now, in terms of the team news for Villa, There's Ramsey, who will serve a 1-match ban after his 2 yellow cards, while Marcus Rashford is out with a hamstring injury. Youri Tielemans will be assessed after missing last weekend's game. We know that Ange made 8 changes against Palace with one eye firmly fixed on the Europa League final, and it feels really unlikely he's going to take any major risks again on Friday night. You may argue, as we've already just said, that Heung-Min Son will most likely get some minutes in the tank in the build-up to next week. Just very quickly, guys, I mean, are we in a situation where we could see up to 10 changes? Because I just wonder, on this point, does Romero, does Van der Ven, does Solanke, do any of these players need minutes at all going into next week? Bill's kind of shaking his head saying no. Bill, you think that these guys don't need any minutes at all? Or do you think we're at a point now where we can't risk anyone else?
If you'd have asked me before the Palace game, when I said, yeah, you should probably get some minutes in the tank, but that Kulusevski injury has shook me. Like we cannot afford to lose another one of our starting 11. We simply can't. And Villa are a really physical, aggressive team as well. You've got players like McGinn, Mcatee, he's injured players before for us. Got the history there, and that's a massive game for them as well. It's a huge game. Like they could potentially get in the Champions League if they win this game. So I would not play anyone over the age of 21 in this game. Play the kids, and I think you'll see a bit of fight from the kids. And I can't risk another contact injury like Kulusevski because plenty of our injuries in the middle of the season were like hamstring injuries, muscle injuries. Contact injuries are something you can't account for, and Villa are a very aggressive team. So I don't want to risk anyone at this point.
So, Bill, would it literally be 10
whatever the under 21 team is against this week? Just play them all. Give them a nice little bonus, nice little Premier League debut. Do it, man.
Problem is, our best players are aged between 19 and 21.
Maybe I've got under 17s, under 16s, whatever.
Bill started a riot. What, Bergvall we started? What we doing? I thought we're resting him for next week.
Under 16s it is then. Play the kids. Fuck them kids, as Michael Jordan says.
I reckon last word on Spurs needs to start against Villa on Friday.
After last for the Spurs are in Bilbao. You're over there, G, next week. It's all going to... I'm worried we might get some injuries ourselves with regards to the way it's gone this season. Ash, what are we going to do? Very quickly, what are we going to do? What are we going to do for Friday's game?
Rob, I'm listening to you. You're saying, Rod, they're going to just, make the changes. Well, it will be the same team that played West Ham pretty much then. No Romero, no Van der Ven, no Vicario. These players are all too... and maybe you're all right, man. Maybe you guys are right because they saw what happened to Cooley. Maybe they panic and they think, one vital injury to one more player and, that's it, we're done. Remember the challenge that Reguilon did on Johnson? He was trying to sabotage our team already. So.
Injuring each other.
Yeah. He was trying to get into the...
Reguilon can play, can't he? Reguilon can play. He's
still on loan at United with that challenge that he did on Johnson.
He was trying to get Werner back, Werner's probably eating schnitzels and frankfurters, and he's like, mate.
No one's even seen Werner train anymore. Everyone must think, what has happened to Werner? No one's seen this guy. He's pocketing 150k a week, and no one's seen this guy for weeks or months.
It would have been ironic if he was available and he came on the team and he scored the winner. That would have been ironic.
Could you imagine?
Yes!
So are you in the same mindset, Ash? You would rest first team?
You know what? I was in the mind space before today that, give them some minutes, take them off at half time. And maybe try to put up a fight against Villa to get some points on the board and finish.
Yep.
But now everyone's like, oh, what's the difference between 17th and 17th? We're gonna finish 17th, so we might as well finish 17th.
If we don't win this trophy, I'll be back.
We're finished. But yeah, maybe we want to finish with a plus goal difference, to end the season and create another record. But I don't know.
Okay, so I mean, it does feel like coming over to you, just to close it on this point. Are we all thinking we're going to pretty much rest all the first team, bar maybe Sonny getting some minutes, and then see what comes out of this?
It's what I would do, but I just don't. I don't think we've got the options available to us to change absolutely everyone. I'm thinking of that midfield. Saul will start 100% against Villa, I feel like. Bentancur and Basuma, at least one of those has to play.
The thing is, though, if one of those players gets injured, if Bentancur, Basuma or Saul gets injured, we literally have no other midfield options going to Bilbao. We have literally no one.
I think that's good. Oh man, I don't even want to think about that, to be honest with you.
We are at that point now, aren't we? You know, in terms of players and availability, can we afford to risk any of the first team players? Even though I don't want to see like another loss. Bill was shaking his head there as well, but I mean, Villa are playing us at the perfect time, aren't they, Villa? I mean, they are literally
100%. Especially when they need that boost for champion. Well, Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say every Premier League have played us at the perfect time for most of the season, but I don't know. Okay, I mean, look. So I mean, I think we all agree Sonny needs to get minutes, right? We all agree Son needs to get minutes, and then kind of rotate and rest. Okay, this might be the first time ever we're going to do a prediction where everybody's going to predict an L for a game, unless it was going to surprise me. Yeah, G, what are you going for? I think you've actually predicted many defeats here. You did predict the Liverpool one, to be fair. You did predict the Liverpool one.
I mean, who could? There's being optimistic, and then there's just being silly. Nah, look, I can't see it being anything else than the Villa win. To be honest with you, they've got all the motivation. They want to get in the Champions League or Europa League, wherever it may be. We're going to be changing a lot of players. It's a Friday night. There's just no way we're not losing that game. So I'm thinking pretty similar to recent results, and I'm going to say 2-0 Villa.
2-0. That's been quite kind. Ash, what are you going for?
Yeah, I'm going to triple captain Rodgers. For those who play fantasy.
Bringing Watkins.
Yeah, I might have to put Watkins on as well. Let's go for a humble 3-0. Yeah.
I guess you take Mcatee. Are you taking Mcatee out and going Kinski out a goal now, have you? My God, what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what, boy. Bill, I always went to leave Bill till last. I feel like it's going to be like an outrageous thing coming out of Bill's mouth. Even it'll probably be a defeat. I'm sorry, Bill, I've set you up now. What's this going to look like?
I got some advice for everyone. Watch Eurovision. Don't watch Tottenham. You know, it's Eurovision weekend. You can do a lot better things than watching Tottenham at 90 minutes. You don't need to do that in your lives. I'm not going to be doing it. Get on the Eurovision train, and I'm going to predict Sweden to win the Eurovision is my prediction.
Only Bill could get out of it like that. I tell you, unfortunately, we've got to be back here after it. So we are going to do some post-match analysis, which will be probably the most irrelevant post-match analysis we've ever done on Last Word on Spurs for an away game. George, I presume you're not going Villa Park, are you?
No. Unfortunately, got too much else to do in the meantime in the build-up to Bilbao. But yeah, my mind is so focused on that final. I can't even think about anything before that. So yeah, not for me.
G, thank you so much. We're getting a lot of suggestions for next season. We are looking at maybe doing some call-in shows for next season. I think, and we introduced it this season, I think we would kill off a lot of the fans. So look, as I say, it's been a very
Samaritans. People can bring Samaritans instead at the moment. I think that's what they need.
I need someone to prep me up. I don't think I'm the right person to be taking these calls, can I just say? I want to say a massive thank you to these guys, where hopefully the next time we're going to see these beautiful faces is when Tottenham are European champions. I mean, is there a kind of final rallying call very, very quickly, guys? I know we're overtime. Final rallying call to the Spurs boys, the manager. What would the final rallying call be, Ash? Have we got another movie quote up your arm very quickly?
No, man, just get the job done, man. It's as simple as that, man. You know, you only get one chance. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to quote Eminem 8 Mile. Yeah, just make us proud, man. No Nuno. That's it.
G, mate, you've been with me for 8 years on this journey. Anything you want to say out there to the stratosphere?
I always win things in my second season. That's all we need to know.
Need to know. I mean, that is going to be the coldest quote, isn't it, of any managerial tenureship, when he puts that Europa League down on the desk where the journalists sit and just walks out with a mic drop. Bill, close us.
I said it from day one when Ange joined. If he wins a trophy, I'll get a tattoo. I'm going to get an enjoy your lunch tattoo. So please, Ange, I want to book that tattoo in next week. Let's do it.
Bill, thank you. Ash, thank you. G, thank you. Audience and listeners, viewers, thank you so much. We will be steering you through to the road to Bilbao. Fingers crossed with no more injuries. I don't want to jinx it. Look, from us all here, guys, keep safe, keep well. Enjoy this next week to come as we are fully in Bilbao mode. From us all here, please keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.